Welcome everyone to week 3, series 3 of the Inspire series. Tonight I once again have my partners in story with us, Josh, Sarah, Karen and Holly. Michelle unfortunately can't be with us, but we have a special guest, Julie from Books in Home. So welcome everyone. Tonight we're going to be talking about writing routines and productivity hacks and sharing some tips and strategies that can maybe help other authors who are watching stay motivated and overcome those dreaded writer's blocks and try to maintain a productive writing routine. I think this is relevant to not only us sitting here, but so many people out there. Josh, I'm going to hand this over to you to kick this off. So, with your thoughts.
Thank you, Jen. I think you saw a post I did on Facebook a couple of weeks ago where I explained that my routine is based on the way my brain works, which is not the most proficient way that brain should work. That I get so excited by an idea and I would go hard onto that idea and I would put everything aside and I will focus. And then I'll either stop, get to the end, or I'll get literally bored with it and just walk away. And that's I do that quite often. It's like, oh, boy, no, walk away. And that could be anything from either writing a book or illustrating the book, or could be redoing my website, or could be planning a new workshop that I'm doing. So, it depends on what you're doing, but there are so many different aspects to being productive, in inverted commas, being productive, and actually working to your strengths and working to your weaknesses, which is what I find is the most trickiest part, because everyone's different. You can say to people, oh, you should, have a word count of write, 2,000 words a day. I mean, like, we're coming to the end of NaNoWriMo. And that's, if anyone wants to do it, just Google NaNoWriMo. I don't know how to spell it. Does anyone know how to spell NaNoWriMo? No? Blank. Yep. Holly does. Yep. Can you spell it for me?
Yep, NaNoWriMo.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. We can put that in the show notes. Thanks, Jen. and that one basically forces you to sit and write for the month of November, and I think that's a great idea. But for me, it's like it's understanding how you work and what opportunities that you've got to actually spend, whether it's writing or whether it's working on any particular project. And I'm in a lucky position because I've designed my life so that I can do all this stuff at any time. I mean, I don't have kids, I don't have obligations, I don't have to go to work or anything like that, because this is basically my job. So I can fit in around that. I can go, well, I'm really not feeling it today. I'm not going to pick up the pen. I'm not going to draw or anything like that. And other days I go, I have got this, and I will go like a man possessed until I've actually got it finished and put everything aside until it's done. And I know there's a lot of creative people that do that. They will push everything aside, family, commitment, whatever, until they can get their project done. So what I'm going to really want to do is actually going to walk around this room and go to everyone else and go, what is your process and what advice you would have to other people? Because there's so many other people that I know that, if you've got kids and you've got obligations, you go, I really want to write a book, but I don't have the time, So Karen, I'm going to start with you. What's your process?
At the moment, zero. It's gone out the window and it's never happened to me before. And I think it's from self-publishing. It's just filled my head up with so much. But a lot of people say you should do a journal and do daily pages. Try that for a while.
Julia Cameron's book that talks about journaling and daily pages. Yeah.
I did try that, but I thought, I'm sitting there going, what am I going to write? And then I just write, and I thought, no. And then I started having an idea book, and I would just write ideas in, and then I would see what I want to write about. And I haven't been doing the ideas book because I had so many ideas. And then when I wanted to find the idea I wanted, I couldn't find it in the book because I don't have a system.
Yeah.
And then I found when I first started writing, my creativity was a lot freer, because I didn't know as much. So the more
Mm.
I got to know, the more I seem to block myself sometimes.
Did you self-center yourself? Like you censored what you were actually wanting to think about in that way, because you go, okay, that's too hard to put in the book. I won't even think about that.
No, I don't self-center. It's just that it just came out very organic and rough, and I didn't care.
Mm.
Somehow now I'm looking, and because I have all this information about picture books, I automatically do it shorter. And I don't know if that's a good thing, because sometimes I think it's better to get it out and then cull it back down. But it depends on what you're writing. If you're writing something that's fun and you've just got that spark, you can just, they're glimmers. I call them glimmers. When you get a glimmer, you just write and you get it out and it's magical. And then there are other stories that are more work, and it depends, like some stories need you to have information before you can write them.
Mm.
So if you're doing a novel, a picture book, or whatever you're writing for children, if it's inspired by events, you need knowledge of those events to be able to put that emotion and that feeling in. And I also found with non-fiction, because I've never been published in non-fiction, but I love animals and nature and the environment. And I go off on a tangent researching animals. And like I did today, I felt sick and I thought, I haven't done any writing because I've been away. And I thought, I just feel like looking at shark stuff. So I spent 3 hours just Googling sharks. I do not know why, but I've got this idea in my head for this shark story and I can't find a way into it. So until I find a way into it, I just fluff around looking at stuff until I can work out how. But
that's a good process to have, though. You're letting it mull over in your mind, though, aren't you?
Yeah, but I'm trying to find a way in to create it.
Mm.
And
but do you trust the process that you'll, the next couple of days that it'll come?
No, it won't take days. It'll take months.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then there's another one, and I've only just discovered this. I don't listen to podcasts or any information, but I'm like, oh, maybe I should start listening to things on the topics I want to write about, just so I get more feeling.
Mm.
Particularly with historical stuff, I'm drawn to that as well. So that's where I'm at. But also I've learned it's only the beginning when you draft it. There's only the very beginning. Then you've got to look at it and work it. And sometimes you can overwork a story and destroy it. You think it's clever with what you know, but you can actually destroy what you've written. Sometimes what comes out first has the fun and the best. And then when I try and work it, I can destroy it as well.
I know that. I've done that myself. But
Yeah.
Holly, as an intuitive, when you are writing, how's the process work for you?
Well, usually I just have a time, or I try not to limit it too much, but just start writing and just see what comes to me. In the morning is usually the best.
Yep.
And I have done NaNoWriMo a few times. And sometimes one time I wrote a novel. The first time I used it actually to help me, just the collective, with writing with the collective people and all of that energy. I use that to help me move my process ahead. And this year, I have started writing a new book, but then partway through, I decided I should spend more time doing editing. So that's what I actually did, more editing when I was at the castle. So yeah, all different ways, I guess, little variety.
Okay, but do you have to carve out time, or you've got lots of time available for you?
I do have time. Yeah, yep. I tend to have. Yeah, and I guess the other thing that takes up my time really is the marketing. So sometimes I have to say, oh, nope, not so much in this area. I really have to spend more time doing actual writing or editing.
It's that balance, isn't it? So, Julie, for you, you're a comic book artist. I love that.
Comic
I love
book
that. So
writer.
writer. So you write the comic. So what process do you have for getting down onto the page?
It depends on whether it's a commissioned work or a work for hire story, in which case there will be a specific brief. You've got to make sure that you're following the world rules, or compared to my own original storytelling. So there's a kind of a slightly different process. With the first, you really got to honor the publication history of what's happened before, and make sure that you're on point about representing the character with all the conventions of the character that have been established, but also the energy of the character. So, for example, the Phantom, there's quite a masculine energy, so I have to tap into that. Whereas I'm writing at the moment, I'm world building for a project of mine, and it's got a female fantasy character, and it'll be more feminine, but there will be some masculinity under that. But the process itself, in comics, I actually think quite visually. I'm not an artist, but I actually think in images, which is what you need in the comics medium. And I ordinarily write from front to back to end, but I allow my subconscious mind to spill out information. I might get the ending to a story first, or I might get one scene in the middle, and I don't restrict that. I just like grab onto that and put it into the story. There was one book I wrote a number of years ago, and I had everything except the beginning. When I started the beginning, I struggled and I just let it go. And then I wrote everything else because I had to hit about half a dozen objectives for the opening scene, which would set up subsequent series, plant a lot of information. And by the time I got to the end, the beginning was like really crystal clear, and I could go back and drop that in. So number one, allow for intuition, allow that the subconscious does not work in a linear way, and it'll spill and spout out things to you in a completely different way to what your conscious mind thinks it will. As far as the discipline of writing comics, the first thing that I do is write the outline, so the story arc. If I nail the story arc, then everything else comes easy after that. But after that, you have to do page breakdowns and panel breakdowns, and then you finally get to the script. But if I nail the story arc, and that's the hardest piece of work, to make sure structurally it's fine, to make sure that the characters are going through what they need to go through for their journey, etc., that you're laying down all the visuals as well to inform the script and to inform the artist. And finally, in comics, my job is also to create a piece of work to allow the artist to shine. It is a visual medium, and even though the script will give the dialogue and the descriptions, I very rarely, unless it's really critical, will tell the artist what shots to use. The only exceptions would be probably close-ups and an occasional what you call a bird's eye view or a worm's eye view shot, and then just give them the opportunity to shine. And when you've got something fantastic going with the artist, wow,
the magic happens, doesn't it?
Magic happens. Yeah.
So are you a morning person or?
I'm a morning person. So unfortunately, because I do have a bread and butter job. I work for a children's charity that gets books out to kids in need. So that occupies all the early part of the day. So I can only really start writing about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which kind of goes against my natural rhythm. So that's why I like weekends, because that's when I can do the most effective writing, and it's quite intense when it happens. And very focused, because if I can get that morning push, then that momentum will carry me through to the afternoon.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm a morning person. Sarah,
Yeah.
you do the same. You do commission work plus you do your own work. So
Yeah.
what's your structure like?
I would say chaotic, because I feel personally that I change and evolve all the time. So because I'm learning all the time. So I think that when I do commission work, as Julie was saying, it's very different because it's from the client, and they give you, you know, the brief and the theme, and there's always a message, and there's always an end goal that they're looking for. So you kind of have to approach that differently. So I think I'm probably more productive with my time for the commission work, because I'm really aware that it's for somebody else. And so I've got 4 daughters, you know, lots going on. So I have to be really smart with my time. So that's when I feel like I'm my most productive. But when I'm writing books for myself, that's when I feel that the creativity just kind of takes over, and I just go with what works. Because for a long time I think I was just beating myself up about, you know, the time that I was given to the work. And it's not just the books, it's like the end result that you're wanting to see, and all of the marketing, and it was just kind of crazy. So I think I'm kinder on myself, because what actually is productive when you're a creative? Is it getting a book out there published, or is it, you know, the process that's happening and learning new skills and learning new themes and topics, and just enjoying it, and just kind of being, you know, grateful for what you're actually doing? So I think I've kind of given myself lots of talkings to over the last few years, where I'm like, actually, you know, it's okay just to start writing whatever comes into your head. And like you, Josh, if I get part way and I'm just not feeling it, then I'm not feeling it. I'm not gonna keep, you know, beating myself up about how this needs to end. And but I think both balances each other. So working for a commission, I've learned a lot. And as Julie was saying, you know, like the story arc is so important, and I've really kind of pulled my socks up there and just kind of learn a lot of different ways to be more productive, and to, you know, put my creativity but into more of like a funnel for them, and give them exactly what they want, you know, because they're talking about word count and page count and layouts and themes, and then how they're going to then use this book. And so there's this whole other side that you're really aware of when you're doing commission work. But then that also makes me really appreciate the other side now, where I'm just writing my own books, really enjoying that process. I'm definitely more productive first thing in the morning. You know, everyone goes to school, college, work, wherever they're going, and then that's kind of my time. And I didn't do that for a long time. I was almost apologizing for writing around people and just give me a minute. So I've made myself have that time and give myself a bit of a routine, because I think I kind of owe that to me now, whereas for a long time I didn't do that. And I think we all do that as creatives. We almost apologize sometimes for going off and writing and thinking, or going off to, you know, research sharks, as Karen said, you know, but that's so important. That's so important to the work that we end up sharing with people. So it's really important, and I think it's really recognizing that. So I will say the biggest way that you can help with your productivity and stop feeling guilty so much about your process and your routine is just to hook up with other creatives, chat to others, because everybody at some point has gone or is going through that same guilt of, what am I doing? Like, is this really worthy? Is this, you know, am I really giving something back? Is this actually a job? Yes, it is. So yeah, talk to other creators. And I don't just hang out with children's writers, like I hang out with writers of all genres, and I think that's really important as well, don't just stick to your audience or your genre. Speak to all writers, all creatives.
Because they're all got similar stories. I mean, as what Julie was saying, and about the narrative arc and about the way you write. I mean, one of these things that I know a lady, and she's got 4 kids, and she held down a full-time job, did a PhD, and wrote a novel, all while juggling all that. But she did it because she did what you said, Sarah. She honored herself and she honored her creativity. And she said to everyone, look, I really want to do this. This is me. So I'm going to carve out a little bit of time in my day. You all can go play and go over there. And I'm going to, and she made a little nook in the living room, a little curtain around it and all that sort of stuff. So she could sit there and type. And she did. And she wrote out a novel. But it is that honoring ourselves and our creative process that is so important. It's so important for mental health, for everything like that. So any lasting sort of, before we wrap it up, advice for anyone?
One thing.
No, I think that's just a really important point, just giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
Once you can do that, it's like it frees everything up. You know, putting you first, honoring yourself, giving yourself, okay, this is my job, this is what I do. Because as creatives, we don't see ourselves that way. And I just think, you know, and I'm really glad you spoke of that, Sarah, because it is so important. Yeah.
And also to read. Like I've got my bookcase behind me, and it's filled with picture books, and then I've got a cupboard over there. And even though I don't write junior fiction or middle grade, I've got my golden ones in there that I read. Like what you were saying, you've got to read out of your zone. And then I've got self-help books and writing books, and I love YA too, actually. So I read out of what I write.
That's great. Julie.
I'd like to just add one more thing. I think there are days, creativity is not just set in stone. It flows in different ways. And there are some days you won't be able to spark, and there are other days where everything will just come gushing out. But I do think it is important that every day you just do one thing, even if it's one sentence or 5 minutes of writing, or it could be, you know, 5 hours of writing. But even if you just do one sentence or one paragraph, what that does is keep the momentum flowing. You've just added a little bit extra to what you did the day before, and then a little bit more to what you did the day before.
Do you use pen or pencil and paper or computer?
I write better on the computer, but I keep notes on my phone. I might be walking around feeding the sheep. I'm on a farm, and suddenly I get this brilliant line of dialogue or something, and I'll either record it on the phone or use my notes on the phone. The important thing is then to like get it into a central kind of depository after, so it's not just all these little fragments all around. So you just need to allow for the fact that you're going to get information from your subconscious. And Holly, you're an intuitive, so I think that you would probably understand this. I used to be a hypnotherapist. I was a hypnotherapist for 11 years, so I'm actually used to dropping into alpha brainwave activity, which is the creative state. And when you're doing something like having a shower or swimming laps or whatever, you can naturally drop into that, and that opens up a door to your creativity. So you'll get a lot of information coming out. Writer's block is really all what happens is that your brainwaves are at the most active mode up in beta, and they're actually blocking that doorway, that gateway between your creativity and your conscious mind. So you need to actually slow your brain waves down, if that makes any sense to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think most important advice anyone ever gave me, if you're suffering from writer's block, is just to walk away and just trust that it's going to come back. Just walk away, feed the sheep, whatever you're going to do. Just distract yourself, drink a bottle of wine, or no, maybe not, but you know, but go away and do something, and just trust the thing will come back, and it always does. Over to you, Jen.
Trust the
Mhm.
process. Yes, that I think that is really important. Let it go. Trust the process. It will always be there, but
Mhm.
walk away if you need to. Just
Yep.
before we wrap it up, Julie, you mentioned a children's charity. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, I work as the communications coordinator for a children's charity called Books in Homes, which is Australian based, but there is a US don't want to use the word division, but there's a US organization. There's also, it started in New Zealand as well. And what we do is we get books of choice, which means all the children on the program, and in Australia, there's around 12,500 kids on the program across Australia. They live in disadvantaged communities or remote or Indigenous communities, and they get to choose 3 books each. The school gets 48 books in a preview pack 3 times a year, and the kids go through the pack and choose 3 books that they would like to have to build their home libraries. So even as few as 20 books in the home can make a huge difference to their educational outcomes.
Absolutely.
500 books in a homes on average add something like 3.4 additional years in education. And if you choose your own book, statistically 89% of kids will finish reading those books. So that builds up that enjoyment for reading, but also their reading skills and literacy skills. And where Karen and Michelle are involved, they're role models for Books in Homes. So when these schools receive all their books, they celebrate the handover of those books to the children by having a special book giving assembly. And we organise role models to go out to those schools and then inspire the kids to read. And they're also aspirational figures as well, because a lot of kids are not taught to dream. So they can't see themselves beyond their school years. But when they meet lots of people like Karen or Michelle or, firefighters or surf lifesavers or, all kinds of people, Indigenous elders that we have on our books, they can sometimes think, I can really connect with that person. I really connect with that profession. Maybe it's something that I can do in the future. So that's what we're about. So it's called Books in Homes. And if anyone in Australia is interested in becoming a role model, just go on the volunteer page of the website or talk to Karen or Michelle and then get in touch with me, and I'd love it.
Well, get my publisher to organise some books for you.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Who's your publisher?
Big Sky Publishing.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
those kids get those books, sometimes I have to stop myself so I don't cry. I talk about it.
Karen's doing 2. Karen's been very generous. She's doing 2 assemblies this term in her area. So one is a preschool and the other one is like a kindergarten. So she'll be reading aloud from her books, I think. Is that correct, Karen?
And it's the best feeling because you don't realise how isolated those children are. That when you come in, I did one in some remote place up in Queensland. I think
that was a virtual one. That was a virtual one.
Yeah, with Tom. And they lived near the coast, but they were also near where NASA was doing testing. And they were coming up to the screen and they're going, yeah. And then they wanted me to share a story and they went nuts. And I had a potato and they're all going on about the potato going off in places. And they're talking about prawning and yabbying, and it's just opening up their world to books and also to the outside world. They don't, if there's an aunt and that experience was wonderful too, because the aunties were there. They come and they're on the veranda and they help the kids get in, and it's a big thing to get them to actually go to school, let alone read. Attendance is very important. They have to work hard on that. And then I did Sofala School in New South Wales, and there was something like 10 children.
Yeah, a lot of our schools have only got 10 or 12 children, and some of the schools are so remote it takes 4 hours just to go to the post office or to get groceries, or they get isolated through the wet season. And a tributary can turn into an island, and they're quite isolated. So, yeah,
They give you so much. Like, I still laugh about some of the things some of the kids have done, and the teachers going, no, listen, sit down, listen to Karen, and they're there talk, and I'm talking to them. I'm just as excited. I was like, this is going to be crazy town. But when they get their books and they just, you see their smiles, and they rip the bag out and they pull out their stuff and they hold their books up. It's magic, absolute magic.
well, that's the
Thank
moment
you.
everyone looks for, the moment the kids take their books out. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening.
And that is the magic. Thank you for sharing that with us, Julie. And if anyone is out there watching, listening, and wants to join in the program, Julie's the lady that you need to contact. So thank you, everyone, for sharing your creative styles and what you do when it doesn't quite work. I'm sure there are many, many out there who would identify with what you've spoken of tonight. So thanks, everyone, and I will see you again for episode 4. Bye, everyone.
Very much.